What comes to your mind when you think about heaven? Streets paved with gold so pure they shine like glass? A sea so crystal clear it looks like it's made of the finest jewels? These are not just poetic images. They are real descriptions straight from the Bible, giving us a glimpse of the breathtaking beauty of our eternal home. But why does heaven have these materials? What do they mean, and how do they reflect the glory of God? In today's video, we'll uncover the deeper significance of these heavenly treasures and what they tell us about God's promise to His people. Stick around until the end and let your imagination be captivated by the wonders of heaven. Let's talk about the streets of gold. In the book of Revelation, the Apostle John describes his vision of the New Jerusalem, a city prepared for God's people. In Revelation chapter 21, verses 9 to 23, he writes, "One of the seven angels who had the seven bowls full of the seven last plagues came and said to me, 'Come, I will show you the bride, the wife of the Lamb.' And he carried me away in the Spirit to a mountain great and high, and showed me the holy city, Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God. It shone with the glory of God, and its brilliance was like that of a very precious jewel, like a jasper, clear as crystal. It had a great high wall with 12 gates, and with 12 angels at the gates. On the gates were written the names of the 12 tribes of Israel. There were 3 gates on the east, 3 on the north, 3 on the south, and 3 on the west. The wall of the city had 12 foundations, and on them were the names of the 12 apostles of the Lamb. The angel who talked with me had a measuring rod of gold to measure the city, its gates, and its walls. The city was laid out like a square, as long as it was wide. He measured the city with the rod and found it to be 12,000 stadia in length, and as wide and high as it is long. The angel measured the wall using human measurement, and it was 144 cubits thick. The wall was made of jasper, and the city was of pure gold, as pure as glass. The foundations of the city walls were decorated with every kind of precious stone. The first foundation was jasper, the second sapphire, the third agate, the fourth emerald, the fifth onyx, the sixth ruby, the seventh chrysolite, the eighth beryl, the ninth topaz, the 10th turquoise, the 11th jacinth, and the 12th amethyst. The 12 gates were 12 pearls, each gate made of a single pearl. The great street of the city was of gold, as pure as transparent glass. I did not see a temple in the city, because the Lord God Almighty and the Lamb are its temple. The city does not need the sun or the moon to shine on it, for the glory of God gives it light, and the Lamb is its lamp." Revelation chapter 21, verse 21 says, "The great street of the city was of gold, as pure as transparent glass." This is not the kind of gold we see on earth. It's a gold so pure, it has a clarity and radiance beyond anything we can imagine. Why gold? Gold is often seen as the most precious and valuable material on earth, but in heaven, it's used as pavement under our feet. This tells us something profound. What we see as valuable here is just the foundation of God's eternal home. The transparency of this gold points to the perfection and purity of heaven. There is no corruption, no blemish, and nothing to hide. Imagine walking on streets that reflect God's light, His holiness, and His glory with every step you take. It's not just a picture of beauty, it's a promise of the perfect and holy life awaiting God's children. What about the sea of glass? In Revelation chapter 4, verses 1 to 6, John writes, "After this I looked, and there before me was a door standing open in heaven. And the voice I had first heard speaking to me like a trumpet said, 'Come up here, and I will show you what must take place after this.' At once I was in the Spirit, and there before me was a throne in heaven with someone sitting on it. And the one who sat there had the appearance of jasper and ruby. A rainbow that shone like an emerald encircled the throne. Surrounding the throne were 24 other thrones, and seated on them were 24 elders. They were dressed in white and had crowns of gold on their heads. From the throne came flashes of lightning, rumblings, and peals of thunder. In front of the throne, 7 lamps were blazing. These are the 7 spirits of God. Also in front of the throne, there was what looked like a sea of glass, clear as crystal. Later in Revelation chapter 15, verse 2, he writes about those who have overcome standing on the sea, which appears to glow with fire. The sea of glass is not like any ocean we know. Unlike the restless, churning waves of Earth's waters, this sea is perfectly still, perfectly clear. It reflects God's peace, His sovereignty, and His unshakable nature. It's a reminder that in God's presence there is no chaos, only perfect tranquility. The clarity of the sea also reveals another truth. In heaven, nothing is hidden from God. The crystal-like waters reflect His throne, His majesty, and His glory, allowing us to see Him in all His fullness. The fiery glow mentioned in Revelation chapter 15, verse 2, reminds us of God's refining power and the victory of the saints who have overcome through Him. Next, we look at how heavenly gold compares to earthly materials. On earth, gold is one of the most sought-after treasures. People work tirelessly, sometimes sacrificing relationships and morals just to possess it. But in heaven, as Revelation chapter 21, verse 21 describes, the great street of the city was of gold, as pure as transparent glass. In God's eternal city, gold is not for wealth or adornment. It's simply what you walk on. This stark contrast reminds us of something profound. What we consider precious and rare is ordinary in heaven. It shows us that the glory of heaven far surpasses anything we can imagine. The value systems of earth, where material wealth defines success, are turned upside down in God's kingdom. Jesus said in Matthew chapter 6, verses 19 to 20, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moths and vermin destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal." Earthly treasures, no matter how beautiful or valuable, fade away. But in heaven, the treasures are eternal. They reflect God's glory and the joy of being in His presence forever. Also, these descriptions are not just about beauty. They point to the unshakable promises of God. The streets of gold, described in Revelation chapter 21, verse 21 as pure as transparent glass, remind us that heaven is a place of absolute perfection and purity. This is where believers will dwell with God forever. And the sea of glass, clear as crystal in Revelation chapter 4, verse 6, reflects the peace and stillness of eternity in God's presence. What do these teach us about our lives today? They remind us that heaven is our true home. Jesus said in John chapter 14, verse 2, "My Father's house has many rooms. If that were not so, would I have told you that I am going there to prepare a place for you?" These promises inspire hope, a hope that is eternal and unshakable, even when life on earth feels uncertain. This hope calls us to live differently. As Paul writes in Colossians chapter 3, verse 2, "Set your minds on things above, not on earthly things." The splendor of heaven encourages us to focus on eternal rewards rather than temporary gains. It helps us endure trials, knowing that what awaits is far greater than anything this world could offer. Some people view these descriptions in Revelation as mere metaphors, thinking they're only poetic ways to describe God's majesty. While there's a spiritual depth to these images, the Bible gives no reason to doubt their literal reality. Revelation chapter 21, verse 21 speaks clearly. "The great street of the city was of gold, as pure as transparent glass." Similarly, Revelation chapter 4, verse 6 describes a sea of glass, clear as crystal. These are not just artistic ideas. They are divine revelations, showing us heaven's splendor. Yet even if the physical beauty of heaven is beyond our imagination, the real focus is not on gold or glass. It's on the glory of God. Revelation chapter 21, verse 23 tells us, "The city does not need the sun or the moon to shine on it, for the glory of God gives it light, and the Lamb is its lamp." The radiant materials of heaven point to His majesty and holiness, reminding us that His presence is the ultimate treasure. When we think of heaven, it's easy to get caught up in the visuals, but these images are meant to draw our hearts closer to God. Jesus told us in John chapter 14, verse 2, "I am going there to prepare a place for you." That place is not just beautiful, it is where we will dwell with God forever. So while we marvel at the streets of gold and the sea of glass, let's remember, they are reflections of God's glory, meant to fill us with hope, strengthen our faith, and keep our eyes fixed on Him. Heaven is not just about what we'll see, it's about who we will be with for eternity. If this message has inspired you, then hit that super thanks button and that like button below.